Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. And now I think we have to do, unfortunately, once more a complete Elliott waves analysis on Gala's price chart since we got this massive liquidation event. And as you can see, Gala was actually one of the altcoins that got actually hit big time, a whole lot more definitely than other alts, since in here, if I just measure it from the highs to about the lows, we got an 86% move on the downside. And for reference, I think the average move down that we got in a lot of altcoins was somewhere around 62%, but in Gala we got an 86% liquidation event, which is unbelievable. And right around the crashing hour when we got our move down, I was actually up, and on Twitter I posted Binance doesn't really open for me. And I think it was like maybe 30 to 45 minutes later after this crashing event, Binance finally opened, and I managed to buy Gala right around the 0.6 of a cent area. In fact, yep, there we go. I actually tweeted back then that I bought Gala a little bit, and my average purchase is right now somewhere around, I believe it was 1.13 cents. So right now I'm not negative, but at the same time I'm not really up either. And here is what I have to say. My analysis in Gala when we were right in here, my primary scenario at least, was absolutely 100% wrong, and I would like to completely own up to my mistake. And I'm gonna say sorry about that one. I apologize. I got this one very wrong. Having said that, if I believe that in Gala it's all downhill from here and we are going to go to zero and we are going to enter a massive bear market, well, okay, why did I buy Gala right around the 0.6 of a cent area? Because I think this strong move down, this massive liquidation event, odds are did actually mark our final low. Now, here is a very important point. When we got this crashing event, there were a lot of shady stuff going on with Binance, and I think this wasn't actually a natural crash. So why do we care about this? Because we usually say whenever you are seeing strong moves on the downside, maybe even created sometimes as a result of a very strong liquidation event, okay, followed by that, you are going to see an initial quick bounce, but odds are that is going to be a dead cat bounce, and you are going to see one more move down in order to fill the gaps that were created as a result of this specific phase up happening way too fast. And in this move on the downside right in here, either we are going to get quite close to this importance low, or maybe sometimes even we are going to take it, and then that will be it, our final low, and we can have a very strong bounce. And maybe at that point we're going to consider the possibility of having a double bottom structure. Now, given the fact that right in here there were a lot of shady stuff going on with Binance, I'm gonna say, yeah, you shouldn't probably count on having some strong moves on the downside, maybe like a 50-60% move in order to fill the gaps right in here. I think that is probably not going to happen, and odds are, in my view at least, again, you can have a different opinion, I absolutely respect it, but in my view, these prices, I'm gonna say, at least for now, are pretty much gone. Sure, maybe give me like an alt season and give me a 10 to 15x move on the upside in Gala in order to build up once more a lot of massive leverage positions. Okay, at that point, I'm going to be open to the possibility of having an insane liquidation event. Right now, we literally do not have any leverage positions in the market, and that's because if you want to say these shadows are real, well, okay, we got an 80% move down in Gala, let's say on average 60% move in a lot of altcoins, and that means even if you played it safe, and even if you had, let's say like a 1 to 2 leverage position open, you still unfortunately got liquidated. Meaning what? Yeah, again, we really do not have any leverage positions right now. That's why I do not believe we are going to see these prices anytime soon, if not even forever. Now, having said that, you see, when you go according to some other charts, there is actually a decent argument to be made that we don't really have this at least insane shadow. I mean, do not get me wrong. We did have this strong move down, and in it, we absolutely took all the lows, but in some charts, we do not have these shadows right in here, and that does sort of kind of affect our analysis a little bit. I'm going to tell you why. But before that, let's just do a quick Elliott wave count. You see, for so long, the idea in Gala was that we are having an A, B, C on the downside in this initial phase into wave W, followed by ABC up into wave X. And we were saying, well, okay, this can be yet another ABC zigzag on the downside into our wave Y, and in a zigzag, subwaves are going to be like this. 5 down into a correction for wave B. Let's say, sure, WXY in this instance. Honestly, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. And then another 5 down into C. And here is the situation. One very important pattern that usually has a habit of happening into a wave 4 in terms of Elliott's waves is called an ABCDE, a triangular structure. And in terms of the subwaves, for this one, it's actually very simple. We must have basically ABCs for every single wave. There we go. ABC down into our wave D, and this is our final ABC on the upside into E leg, and then we can have another final move on the downside. And in GALA, now I think we have to consider the possibility of having a triangular structure in this area. And in the previous videos, I was saying, well, okay, maybe this was our last leg down into wave 5, and on a higher degree, we have completed a 5 wave into the C leg of this ABC zigzag, completing the subwaves for a WXY in form of a double zigzag. But as you can see, seems like that, yep, I was absolutely wrong. And now I'm still going to argue this whole move is a WXY, a double zigzag, no problem at all. But now I'm gonna say true about this point most likely was the end of our wave 4, and I can argue this was A, B, C, D, E to about these areas, excuse me. Let's just stretch the waves a little bit more. There we go. And then we got our final move down into our wave 5. And basically this means in GALA, the bottom is set. Now, here's a very important point. Into our wave 5, we have to be able to find a complete 5 wave for the subwaves in order for us to be able to argue the bottom is set. The question is, do we have it or not? Well, let's go on another chart, maybe from TradingView. There we go. Okay, so here is my primary case. In my view, in GALA, we do have from here 5 down into 1, correction for 2, a strong move down into wave 3, correction for 4, and probably another move down into wave 5. And I'm even willing to argue that even this short-term 5 wave down is over, and maybe and hopefully for that matter in GALA, we have hit our final low. And if this shadow is actually messing with you a little bit, okay, here is where things get kind of interesting, because in some exchanges, we didn't actually get this insane shadow. And I think the biggest one was actually Gemini. Unfortunately, GALA is not actually listed on Coinbase, so I cannot really show it to you. But on Gemini, yep, there we go. As you can see, we really do not have this big shadow. And I think it is very much fair to say that this looks a lot like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, what if in like very short time in this area, the bottom in GALA is not in yet? Well, okay, here is what I have to say. At that point, odds are we are going to have like an A, B, C, D, E, a triangle, and then we're going to have like one more move down. And pay attention, I do not believe that this is going to be such an insane move on the downside. No, in fact, in my view, if we are going to have one more move on the downside, we are just by like a very small margin are going to take this low. And here is a very important point. At that point, I am willing to bet that you are going to witness a beautiful bullish divergence in GALA, and maybe this is going to be a low, the other one is going to be a lower low on the live charts, but in MACD, this is going to be a low. The other one is going to probably end up, based on what we are seeing at least right now, a higher low, meaning this is a bullish divergence, which is actually one very important sign indicating the bottom is set. So overall in GALA, in my view, either the final low is already in, or maybe we're just going to have one more small move down, and that will be it, our final bottom. And it can, I think, potentially be a decent buying opportunity, since we are so far away from the beginning of the crashing event. Okay, let's actually go on TradingView's chart so we can see the candles a bit better. There we go. You see, the moment that we started our crash, GALA was somewhere around, as you can see, 1.6 cents area. And I do believe not only in GALA, but probably in a whole lot of other altcoins, we are going to soon recover from all this madness. And if you close this chart and come back maybe in about 10 to 15 days, odds are we are going to be back around these levels, meaning from the current point in Gala, we are going to have something like a 40-50% move down. And if we end up getting another move on the downside and clear the lows, okay, that's just going to be, from my POV at least, a better buy opportunity, because I still believe that by the end of this cycle, if we're going to get an alt season, which right now at least that's my base case, I am fairly convinced that we are going to get one. Gala is going to participate in that alt season, and let's just even say we're not going to have insane targets, and we're not going to go and reach to about the highs in here back in 2021, about 50-60 cents. Let's just say those prices are even gone forever. Okay, humor me a little bit, I'm trying to make a very important point. Let's just say, in case of an alt season in Gala, we're just going to go up and reach to about the previous major pivot high in daily time frame, which happened around November, December of 2024, basically a year ago. And I think we can all safely assume this is like a very, very realistic target. Okay, now, in this case, if we're going to do it, and I think we are actually going to reach to about this important high right in here, about 8.5 cents. Well, okay, that means from the current point, you can expect something like a 7.5 to, even if you're lucky, 8x move on the upside, which honestly isn't that bad. I know in the crypto market, these aren't really considered big gains, but for someone like me, who is kind of old and has been around in the traditional market for quite a bit, these are actually very, very good profits. And in my view, somewhere around these areas can be considered actually as kind of a safe target. So I think Gala, one way or the other, is a very, very good buy opportunity, at least for me. For you, okay, I don't really know your situation. You should probably do your due diligence, come up with your own conclusion, and then if you thought, you know what, this is actually a good buy, feel free to watch some YouTube videos in order to understand what might be the next likely move in the short to mid-term. So let's have a quick conclusion and wrap up today's video. In Gala, even with the recent phase on the downside, I would like to still be very much optimistic and argue by the end of this cycle, we are going to have a decent move on the upside, and we can at least get to about these highs right in here between 7 to about 8.5, 9 cents, which means we're going to have like a 700% move on the upside. And in my books, this is definitely not that bad. And also, here is one more reason to be kind of optimistic. You see, in terms of classic technical analysis, meaning supports and resistances, we do have a decent resistance around here. And here is the thing, I think this is kind of a weak resistance since we touched it more than a couple of times. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times we got to here, and every single time we got some sort of a reaction from it. And I think the next time that we go up and reach to about this level between 1.8 to about 2 cents region, I think we're going to get a break of it, do a pullback, and then accelerate our move up big time. And at that point, yeah, you're probably going to see me calling this move, hopefully a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up. And I'm really hoping this is going to happen by the end of this cycle. So as you can see, I'm still here. My opinion on Gala still hasn't changed, and that's why I bought the dip. And if I'm wrong, you know what? Fair enough. I am going to once more come here and apologize for my terrible analysis. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Gala's chart. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time with your family and loved ones. Goodbye.